we're doing Cosby and we're doing transgendered people. Is that what we're doing?
Cosby? I don't know. Well, I want to talk. Yeah, a little bit maybe about the drag queens.
Okay.
It's just drag queens. It's not. I mean, like they're calling themselves drag queens. They're not calling themselves transgender or anything. It's like have a drag queen read to your children or something, right?
All right.
So they don't call them. Maybe they don't want to go that way because it's the New York Public Libraries, and it's also like this whole touring thing all across the country. It's San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York. It might even be up in your neck of the woods. We don't know.
It sounds like something that would happen here. And
it's just these scary, creepy looking drag queens are reading to children, and this is my wife sent me the picture. Well, she sent me the link in the website in the New York Public Library, and they have it happening over here at our local library branch right over here, down the street. And I mean, like, she was like laughing, and I was like saying, this is the new normal. No laughing, You can't laugh at these people. You have to take them completely seriously, like modern art.
This is serious. This is the complete breakdown of everything, as far as I'm concerned. But
I mean, the funniest thing in the world is the first picture on the website. It's a flash presentation that shows all these pictures of drag queens reading to children. The first picture is this absolutely horrified little girl staring at this drag queen who's trying to read a book to her.
Yeah,
she looks absolutely horrified.
Yeah, this is, as far as I'm concerned, this is like slightly child abuse. I think and look,
I guess.
I don't see. Okay, I don't have children. I don't really need to have an opinion on this. But when I see stuff like this, now I have to have an opinion, even though my opinion it has no effect on anything. Like I can see this, I cannot agree with this. Doesn't change anything. I'm not going to go out and like protest it. But I'm
guessing that your opinion, you are disturbed by it, right?
Yes.
But now your more progressive liberals will tell you that you're just being hateful.
I'm fine with that.
You're using
I don't care what they think of me.
I
don't care what my opinion. If my opinion offends them, I don't care. Them doing that offends me.
It's like if you don't find Caitlyn Jenner or Bruce Jenner physically attractive, that means you hate transgenders. It's that kind of logic.
Well, I mean,
we're supposed to act like this is completely normal.
It isn't. It might be eventually, but normal doesn't make it right. A lot of things are normal and are not right.
Yeah, nuclear warfare is normal.
Well,
it's not right.
Well, nuclear warfare, we're not really. I mean, it would be normal if we did it a lot. We only did it twice. And
that's how we ended our war. Though,
that's dropping a bomb. That's not.
That was a Hail Mary in the fourth quarter, like with 5 seconds left on the clock, and we were being worn down. Then we were just like Harry Truman was like, "Fuck it, let's drop them.
Yeah, fuck it.
See what happens."
This technology because we thought that the Germans were developing it, even though they were way not. But then by the time we figured it out, and and of course, we stole most.
They were getting there though. Yeah, they were getting there.
We stole most of their scientists.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's really all we needed to talk about with drag queens. I have been recording this whole time.
I figured as much. I know it's like I'm being monitored at all times. So
you're being monitored.
America, I stand by these statements.
Skype is monitoring our conversation. It says so in their new terms of service.
I'm okay with anybody hearing this but it's okay that I don't agree with it because I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to attack these people. I'm not going to go out and protest these people. I got other stuff going on in my life. If they want to ruin humanity, fuck them. I only got 40, 50 years left.
I disagree. I would do the opposite. I want to touch them. I want to, I want to see, they have certain things, they have stuff, they're wearing big bras, they stuff their bras with something. Yeah. I want to touch their breasts. And then I want to touch what they have down there. Oh. And I want to see what's going on. I'm very curious about these things.
Really?
Of course, I want to know. I want to know
well,
why
don't you go and find? I'm sure there are lots of them on your corner. You're in New York, you know the.
No, they're in my local library.
Yeah,
I'll just go down to the library.
Go, hey, dude. Hey, brother.
Hey, what up, bitch?
Hey, what up, bitch? Biatch. What's going on? I want to touch it. I want to see it.
Why do they have to be so creepy though? Why can't they be
because
happy,
they're trying
smiley
to make
face?
a statement.
Yeah, they're like,
and you know, I've said this before. You know, none of us would have to be here if their father had hugged them when they were 14. None of us would have to be here. Or maybe their father hugged them too much in the wrong place, and that's why we're here. Who knows?
Well, like the backseat of a Volkswagen.
Could be.
Okay. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, let's get on to the fun stuff.
Okay,
the material, right?
Now that you've stretched me out, I'm ready for Cosby.
Well, I want to get this out of the way first. I believe that Bill Cosby, William H. Cosby, Dr. William H. Cosby, Ph.D., Temple University, 1971, I think, University of Massachusetts, Doctor of Education, is a sex offender. I believe he did knowingly drug women and have sex with them. But his arrest, trial, and conviction was unlawful. I've gone on record examining statements and accusations. I'm reading from my notes now.
All right.
And I found absolutely no physical evidence, physical proof to back up the claims and allegations made by Andrea Constand, I believe is her name, among other women who stepped forward to accuse Cosby. This what we're going to talk about right now is less about Cosby's behavior and the charges against him than it is about the public reaction and overreaction to the charges, the ultimate trial and conviction. Okay. I want to put some examples out there for you first, and for our listeners out there. You have a murder trial, you have assault and battery, you have a serial rapist, you have stories like the Central Park Jogger. Do you remember the Central Park Jogger? It was big national news back in the late 80s, early 90s here in New York.
Yes.
You have the Night Stalker, Richard Ramirez. You have O.J. Simpson and his Bruno Mali's driver's gloves, bloodstains all over the Bronco.
Yeah.
You have Rodney King. These are crimes with a preponderance of physical evidence. Usually how it goes, you connect a piece of physical evidence to the person or persons you believe committed the crime. Most, if not all, cases are solved in this fashion. Sometimes it doesn't work, like O.J. Simpson.
Yes.
A lot of people were cheering when the verdict came in, and it divided the country.
A lot of black people were cheering because they get screwed over in the judicial system.
Yeah. And that'll lead into a separate topic about historical injustice. Simpson's defense team turned it into a racial issue, and people bought into it.
Well, it helped that there were a bunch of a majority of them were black jurors that were sick of dealing with bullshit that they deal with in their life as a black person.
Yeah,
that does not help.
But the only reason OJ is being prosecuted is because he's black, obviously.
No,
had nothing to do with all the
the
blood and the history of domestic abuse. Yeah. He's black, case closed. To paraphrase David Letterman, I know you think he's innocent, but do you want to have dinner with the guy? You know, the way he talked about Chris McClover.
Let me counter that with what John Lovitz once said. He said, well, he was nice to me.
Yeah, he didn't turn me into a Pez dispenser, so he was nice to me that one time.
Yeah.
Rodney King, videotapes, that was the smoking gun. The cops were let off. How did that happen? Again.
Well, okay, now I'm gonna retry this case. Now you look at the tape. He obviously was beaten down, and he was beaten, and he was really beaten. But
excuse me a sec, my Perrier went down the wrong pipe.
All right, babe.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
Well, I do want to say it was like 4, 5, 6 cops, all with billy clubs,
however,
beating the holy shit out of them.
This is an argument that I don't want to get into, but it's like uncomfortable. Where it's like when a police officer says freeze or stop or whatever, you do what they say, whether you agree with it or not. This can be figured out later.
Yeah, I agree, but
it
goes beyond all reason, though.
Something.
Well, I mean, it goes beyond all reason that you have 5 or 6 cops with billy clubs rather than
down. They shouldn't have acted that way, but he should. And this happens a lot.
And they put enormous pressure on the man who owned the videotape, who took the video footage. You know, they were trying to intimidate him because they did not want that tape out because it looks bad, right?
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the chronology of that was the guy recorded it, and from like another building, so they probably didn't even know this happened. And then I think he took it to like KTLA or some local station.
He sat on it for a couple of days, and then because he didn't know quite what what his rights were.
Yeah.
So he talked to a lawyer, and he was a little bit afraid of the backlash that might occur should a cop stop him and try to put two behind his ear for making the force look bad or something. So he's a little worried for 2 days.
Didn't he sort of? I mean, I don't know the name of the guy that submitted the tape. Didn't he like give it to
I forget his name. It was like Clayton something.
Under the condition of anonymity, I don't want this. I don't want my name coming out.
His identity is known. His name is out there, but I think that whatever it was, I think the television station protected him during it. So
well, it's kind of like an anonymous source.
Kind of, except they know who he is. It's like the same guy who took video footage of the L.A. riots after Rodney King, and the black people who were pulling the truck driver out of the truck and beating him
wasn't that
almost to death. That was something like that, but it was news footage, yeah. And then there was the Tompkins Square riots with the cops getting out of hand here in New York, and somebody took video of that too. So, but this is all physical evidence. Well, okay. I think my point was, we know OJ did it. Mm-hmm. Nobody had a camera. We weren't there, but the evidence was overwhelming in the case. We just know he was let off. We know the cops beat Rodney King. We have the videotape. The cops were let off. Political and social biases were at work. Court tends to side with cops. Juries can be influenced by race and by circumstances, which is why we have voir dire, which is jury selection process. This is a kind of a game. How many people of a certain color can the defense get on the jury? How many women? How will those black jurors and female jurors influence the decision? I had jury duty, and I was discharged because the prosecutors believed I had a perceived bias. It had to do with excessive force with cops, and they asked me questions. They were like, "Have you ever been mistreated by cops?" I said, "Yes, once. I had my head smashed up against the wall because they thought I was responsible for a rash of purse snatchings in the neighborhood, and it turned out I wasn't."
Yeah.
They didn't apologize. I asked for their badge number. They said, "Fuck you, that's my badge number." I told them all this. They were like, the defense was like, I'm sorry, the prosecution was like, "We'd like to discharge this guy. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. We can't have him," because that's the thing.
Well, I think part of the reason police are like that, I'm going to defend cops for their shitty behavior here for a second, because they are human, and I kind of call it like the sort of the customer defense, where if you're in any profession anywhere and you deal with other people, you start to hate them, no matter what.
Yeah,
so you start to hate your customers because they're bothering you. You're trying to do your job, and even though part of your job is to deal with stupidity, you deal with stupidity every day. And this beats down these officers every day, and they deal with idiots.
Yes,
and they deal with most of the people they deal with are, let's face it, they put them they're in the bad neighborhoods where the crimes are, and where the crimes are in the bad neighborhoods, generally they are minority people because of larger social things that keep them in that poverty. So they're seeing is crimes committed by certain colors of people and certain ethnicities of people. Yes,
I get it. It's a losing battle.
And so I'm like,
they're under an enormous amount of pressure, a lot of strain at the job. Their lives are shit. They feel like what they do is they're fighting a losing battle.
And honestly, the kind of people that become cops, they have a certain mindset to begin with to become a cop because they see injustice in the world and only they can fix it. So they've already got a chip on their shoulder of like, I'm going to fix the world.
I was a very young man. I don't know, 17, 18, 19. And there was a cop who was like, "You should really join the force," because I was a very muscular young man, a tall physique, stuff like that. And he showed me his paycheck, and he made really good money. And I was like, "Holy shit, you make that kind of money?" And he's like, "Yeah, you should really consider joining the force." And I was like, "I don't know." It's just we're always looking for.
So he basically recruited you because you were a big, strong, easily
strapping man,
strapping, Jonathan Frakes-looking young man.
He's like, "Cops aren't losers. Look at this check.
Yeah,
this is 2 weeks right here." And it was like over $3,000, and it was like at the end of the '80s, which is very good money.
That,
but probably some of that was overtime too.
Oh,
sure, yeah.
Cops,
hookers. You get more women than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So yeah, I understand. Yeah, they're under an enormous amount of pressure. In a more perfect union, as the Constitution likes to tell us, or the Declaration of Independence, people would behave on their best behavior. But
no,
we're all flawed. That's part of my problem, is that we're all human beings. Therefore, we're all capable of human failing, and that includes people in authority positions.
And they're flawed, and they have guns.
Yeah. Flood people with guns, and they don't want you to have guns.
No.
They discourage you from owning guns. They discourage you from fighting back against people who try to attack you. You know, things like that. Okay, criminal justice depends on physical evidence. Criminal justice needs physical evidence. So my issue with going back to the Cosby case is that there is no physical evidence. You know, I mean, like I said, I believe Cosby is guilty, but my belief without proof should not be enough to send him to jail or force him to wear an ankle monitor or any other punishment.
I see where you're coming from, but I have a suspicion, and we probably would have to do more research, and maybe you did. I'm wondering if perhaps over the years the laws have changed quietly, that you don't necessarily need that as much evidence. Like there were other court rulings that said, no, you don't need, or like precedents were set by other cases that didn't have evidence, that didn't have physical evidence, but there was enough sort of external, like, you know.
I have seen nothing to that effect. It's always, you always have to have, as a matter of fact, and my wife showed me the article recently.
Yes.
This woman already sued him, and she won back in 2000.
Yeah. Well, she settled out of court.
5 or something. It was a civil trial, and it was settled. So I'm still wondering. This makes it even more suspicious. But why is she taking him back to trial again? If she already won, if she already settled, she probably got millions of dollars.
She did. She got $3-some million or something.
Yeah, it's just, and then she takes him to trial again, and there's the first attempt at a trial failed. There was a mistrial in June of 2017. And I bet you that mistrial had to do a lot to do with, number one, no physical evidence, and number two, why are you doing this again? Mm-hmm. In his retrial, he was found guilty again on April 26, 2018, last week, on 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault. And because of the world we live in today, 2018, accusations are the same as committing a crime, especially when it comes to the 2 big R's. And we've talked about this before: rape and racism. Being accused is as bad as actually having committed the crime.
Do you remember way back? People forget this. Remember Kobe Bryant and that whole situation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But
he won an Oscar. He won an Oscar this year.
It turned out that the woman was a total hoe bag, and they used it against her because they had his DNA in her panties, and they had a couple other dudes' DNA in her panties. She literally had been passed around.
Right, but didn't he actually settle with her? Wasn't that also a settle out of court for a large sum of money?
Maybe he did, but like you would think that would ruin his career. But that was another time. If that had happened now, like that was almost 20 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And I just
he's a basketball and. If you ask me, when it comes to like basketball players and football players,
they usually get a pass on these things.
They do. They certainly
get all the bitches.
Yeah. I sent you this article that was written back in December of 2014. It's the only article I've been able to find that actually talks about this, and it's so strange because no one is saying anything about this. No one is saying anything about, and I'll talk about why I'm bringing up this topic after I'm done with all this, because it's really bugged me. Right. This is what brings up the whole point of historical injustice, and I thought this was very interesting. We have formed our opinions based on no established facts and no evidence, and only on the memories of the women, most of whom say they were drugged at the time. Some of them have conceded that their recollections are foggy, which of course they would be after decades, and under pharmaceutically induced circumstances, allegedly.
Statute of
so they were already on
these
drugs.
Things too, I would think.
You would think, yeah. Actually, I think my wife might have told me there is no statute of limitations when it comes to rape.
I swear there was. Like it's long, but there is. I think the only thing that doesn't have it is like murder is the only thing that doesn't have a statute of limitation, I think.
Okay, so use of the word allegedly intends no disrespect, but is a requirement for journalists as opposed to people who chat online. Any charge is alleged until proved or determined true beyond a reasonable doubt by a jury of one's peers. This is how it's supposed to work, though it surely hasn't in Cosby's case and probably won't because of the statute of limitations. Sorry there.
You know, he although, and we've been passing around these funny clips because, you know, all this is obviously very funny for some reason.
He is an incredibly ripe target.
I mean
he's wonderful.
He would pepper things in his material of like when he talks about putting the Spanish fly in the drink. And then they
put the Spanish fly in the new Coke.
In the drink, and now I'm doing Cosby and I can't stop.
And now he can't.
And then
I mean, you saw the artwork. The artwork is hilarious.
I'll see you then you put it in the Jello pudding against the hose. Wow. If it's, and then we had that other clip.
And the lawsuit.
He had the barbecue sauce, like that he was putting in his stuff, and everybody
Bill Cosby's
was getting
Red Hot
horny or something.
Ricochet
There's a
barbecue
clip
sauce
floating around of that from the Cosby Show.
Well, I don't know why you keep sending me this GIF from Leonard Part 6 of him holding up a hot dog as some kind of a weapon or something.
He liked to whip it out while they were passed out, maybe.
I don't understand that. Okay, well, to finish up the thing from the article, he says this. The writer says this column is not a defense of Bill Cosby, but a reminder of our rule of law. We see in Ferguson, Missouri, what happens. This article was written shortly after what the riot in Ferguson.
Yeah.
What happens when respect for our legal process is lost? Arsonists and looters expressed their outrage that a grand jury didn't act as they thought it should. Yet we hear people trying to defend these actions as somehow acceptable or at least non-criminal because of historical injustice. Historical injustice is a very interesting, important idea. What this means is women, and my wife even defended this notion, women, minorities, blacks, have been historically oppressed. So therefore, there has to be some form of reparation, whether it's financial or emotional, that I guess white people must somehow execute in order for these people to feel good.
I feel like I gave it. I feel bad.
And men,
like that's enough.
white people and men.
I don't directly cause any problems for black people. Me existing shouldn't cause a problem for black people. I am a fortunate person. I am a fortunate white person. I'm gonna call that white privilege, whatever.
It's American privilege, dude. We're all privileged.
You know,
okay? We live in the greatest country in the world.
We do.
That's a privilege.
No matter what everybody says, we do. And
that's what Candace Owens says.
If black
Candace
people
Owens
don't
said
like it
this.
Here, go to Africa. Well, we'll see how you like it over there. How things are going over there. Come on.
I encourage everyone to look at Candace Owens' argument against Black Lives Matter. She happens to be a young black woman herself, and she was holding these people to task for their perceived lack of privilege.
Well,
and she was trying to explain to them.
Let's face it, all that crap that was going on back then for black people, it's still going on. White people kind of forgot about it because now we all hate Trump because I do. But all that stuff that was on the news about all black people and all the crap that they deal with that we actually kind of cared about for a little while, we don't care about that anymore because we're too busy worrying about Trump. But all that crap, they're still dealing with it.
This might be part. Well, I don't really know that. I think black people are doing a lot better than they were under Obama. But that's just my opinion. But I will say that there is a certain. If there was any damage, I think my wife was correct on this because she's the one who said this to me, and I was like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. If there was any damage inflicted on the American public, it was psychological damage when Trump was elected president.
Yeah, and
this can cause this defensive and this incredibly psychotic, schizophrenic, paranoid behavior that a lot of minorities seem to be having now in the wake of Trump being president.
I have a larger theory of the whole sort of Me Too movement. I think Trump started it. Like Trump rage started it, and women started getting very angry. And since they couldn't get rid of the president, they started going after all the men that screwed him over.
Right.
And so the Harvey Weinstein thing probably would not have happened. It probably would have just kept going.
Well, I don't understand. I mean, why did they wait so long? Why do all these women wait so long? Apparently, these charges against Cosby go back 40 years.
Yeah, that's my
40,
advice.
50 years.
Any woman, any man does anything you don't like, say it when it happens. Keep saying it until somebody believes you. Don't wait.
That's why it raises eyebrows for me.
Yeah.
That's why the whole behavior raises eyebrows for me. Why are you waiting till now to do it? I told my daughter last night. I said, if anybody ever touches you, if anybody ever attacks you, if anybody ever tries to rape you, you go to the cops, you go to the hospital, you get a rape kit, you start establishing a timeline, you make your statements. You get DNA, you get tested, you get your blood tested for diseases, you get your blood tested for drugs, you get a full pelvic. That's what you do. And she said, okay, all right, stop.
Well, and for goodness sakes, do not be in any sort of inebriated state around any male. Because
any person you don't trust, definitely, and even maybe a few people you do.
And don't hang around Bill Cosby, for Christ's sake. Jesus, he'll put something in your. He'll put it in the Jello pudding, and then you pass out, and then you.
I worry less about that guy these days. He can barely walk, and he's kind of blind. So, if anything, he'll be molesting your. I don't know, the bridge of your nose or something.
People gonna be putting the Jello pudding in his.
Okay, now this is what disturbs me. There was a major reversal in the public perception of Bill Cosby, starting from the moment the story came out. This is another item that troubles me. Hannibal Buress, stand-up comedian, co-host of the Eric Andre Show on Adult Swim for several years. I was a big
fan. Mr. Charisma.
Yeah. He's a stand-up comedian. He was being heckled by members of an audience during one of his acts, and he retorted to them loudly something to the effect of, "Hey, at least I don't drug and rape women like Bill Cosby."
Yeah.
Suddenly we have a story. Suddenly we have allegations, and then charges are being filed again.
I'm wondering if
what
perhaps
Buress said could be construed as public defamation.
Okay. He is sort of in the entertainment industry, at least peripheral at the time. He may have heard all the stories. He may have, because you're hanging out with people and like, did you know Bill Cosby did this? Did you hear this? Because I heard from a friend of mine and it's something he did. Bill Cosby was a total asshole or something like that. So he was probably had heard it and then just let it out. That'd be my guess.
But we have accusations in a trial based on this, though. It's a historical curiosity. It's a joke. It's a not very funny joke.
So many women. And then also, when he testified, he did say, "Oh yeah, I would give women drugs and then I would have sex with them." He literally says that. And it's like,
I believe, he does say that. But I think he might have been, number one, he wrote that in his book. He wrote a book called Childhood, and he had a comment in there about drugging a teenager. I believe a teenage babysitter. And then it's quite possible he was coerced too. But that doesn't really matter. I think he did it. But the thing is, what disturbs me is the lack of physical evidence. There's this woman, what's her name? Andrea Constand or something, right? She claims that she was like attacked or raped or something by Cosby in January of 2004. She sits on this for over a year until she finally just says to her mom one day, "Oh, I think Bill Cosby raped me." And then, of course, her mom is a mom and would be like, "Oh, well, go to the cops, you fucking idiot," like you should.
Yeah.
And so she waits over a year. February of 2005 is when she says anything to cops. So why did she wait that long? Why did she not have her blood tested? Why did she not why did she not, get some kind of a rape kit? Establish a chain of physical evidence so that you can have a case.
Yeah, well,
so instead, Bill Cosby, I think, is like a lot of these guys who have done so many. We've talked about this. He's a ladies' man. He hung out at the Playboy Mansion. Yeah, he was married. I feel bad for poor Camille because either she had a clue and was just lying to herself, or she had no idea.
She knew. They know. They know every stupid thing that you do. I'm sure your wife knows every stupid thing that you've ever done.
She doesn't know everything.
She knows now.
But I think that he often gets his women mixed up. So he was, I don't know, he's like, well, there was the one over there. And there was the one over
Rutabaga. I don't know. I'll find out.
So, but now, because of the world we're living in 2018, it's important to grant people labels and call them names. Accusations being labeled a racist, a homophobe, and misogynist. The charge being classified as a rapist or a racist, a homophobe, is or seems to be more important than any actual reality. If you had made a comment, perhaps a controversial comment, and are labeled something, racist, homophobe, sexist, you could be fired from your job.
Well,
assuming
not me.
you have
I don't
a job.
work for anybody.
You can be fired from your job. A quick check on Bing right now as I write up these notes. Boy Scouts changed their name. Kanye West, slavery controversy. Supremacist is guilty. Hate speech button for Facebook. So there's definitely a pattern in formation here where we have a new culture of shaming.
Well, maybe that's a good thing. If people are so afraid of, I was just
their
thinking
dirty
about,
little
I
secrets.
was thinking about this earlier. Now, people are much less religious these days, and
well, I mean, the religious people aren't as loud as the. They're just still out
people
there.
are generally less religious now.
But liberals love to mock
fear
religious
of
people,
God, fear of eternal damnation. Prevented a lot of crime and a lot of people doing bad things. They say, "Oh no, God wouldn't like that," and then they wouldn't do it. Whereas now, we have different fear. We have fear of, "Oh no, the Facebook is watching me. I better not say that. I better not do that."
Yeah.
So it's like it's the same. We always need some kind of fear of something to prevent us from doing something. That's why we have laws to like crime and to prevent us. But when you're somebody like Cosby, who is a combination of he's super rich, he's rich, biatch, he's rich, He's getting all the.
He was enormously successful. He was America's dad. He had honestly, a popular TV show.
Talking about like what Obama did for black people. I'm sure he did a ton for black people. Just as a
I suppose.
Icon. So he's insulated by like, you know, if something goes down, a woman is sort of calculating, okay, do I really want to go after a super rich guy? He's loved by every black person in America and most white people. This is a lot to go against. So that's probably why they initially had the fear. And then all this sort of Me Too movement comes out and women feel like I can talk now. I think that's why now.
Okay. Well,
it's the Me Too thing of like all the women are
just getting in.
There are new revelations about Charlie Rose coming out about him.
What is that the one where he like secretly videotaped his child's au pair or something?
I don't know that story. All I know is that he had a reputation, according to Howard Stern, because he would talk about him. Everyone, Charlie Rose is a master coxman. So he was out there getting left and right, but there are also
that's amazing to me.
There's new revelations of like at CBS stuff was going on. People
can you imagine Ted Knight molesting children? Ted Knight, yeah. Lou, come on, Lou.
I think that it's kind of like, okay, if you're in a professional business situation, and let's say you have a boss, and he's a generally okay guy, at least to you, he's nice to you, but you hear stories of like, hey, he did something kind of weird with a woman and something happened. You want to protect your job. You know that if you say something,
I suppose, but some people think they're above it. They're above the accusation.
Well,
they're
most
above,
like
Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton got a blowjob in the Oval Office. He didn't give a fuck. I mean, he just went and did it because he's the goddamn president, right?
I'm the president.
I'm the fucking president. Yeah. I wanted to make the correlation between O.J. Simpson and Bill Cosby because I was extremely surprised that no one has said anything about racism in regard to Cosby when all our allegations and no physical evidence. But this is rape, whereas OJ nearly took his ex-wife's head off and murdered her friend too.
Yeah.
And people were shouting racism. So they were shouting racism in 1994 with a vicious, violent murder, couple of murders, and they're not shouting racism now where rape is involved. And I think that's part of it. We don't have that much time left, but I did want to bring up Mattress Girl, Emma Solkowitz, who made a claim that she was anally raped by her boyfriend.
Yeah, I heard about
Columbia University turned it into a performance piece called Carry That Weight, where she carried a mattress around with her every day to and from her classes. Yeah. It turned out that she lied.
Yeah.
She coerced her boyfriend into having anal sex with her. He had the texts on his cell phone, but it took a 4-year process where they destroyed his life.
Yeah.
They wiped away his credits. They reinstated them, apologized, and are now involved in a countersuit by him. But his reputation was destroyed for 4 years, and still, even after that, there's still a stigma when it comes to being accused of rape.
Well, see, I'm going to say this.
And then there was the Rolling Stone UVA rape case that turned out to be a complete fabrication too. Society is willing to believe certain groups when they lie about an attack.
Yeah, and that's what makes it tougher for women who are actual victims of actual sexual assault.
Absolutely.
Where
even Obama got it wrong. He said something like 1 in 5 women are raped on college campuses, which is a staggering statistic because it would be a ridiculous amount of women being raped.
20%.
And also, it's completely not true. It was completely not true.
Well, I mean,
that figure came from another place.
Well, I can imagine at least 20% of women in general having some kind of either full-on rape or some sort of like really not good situation. 20%.
The average
that sounds about
turned
right
out to be the average turned out to be closer to 1 in 20 women were raped on college campuses.
In college, I don't know. That seems kind of low to me. I mean, I've known a lot of women. I've talked to women.
There's very few. No,
some kind of story.
The way the media paints it, every woman is going to be raped at some point or another, which is like that doesn't really happen. It only happens in movies. It happens in Death Wish movies.
Maybe you should talk to more women because they usually have some sort of weirdness story of some kind of weirdness that went on that was could.
I would say I know a lot of women. I would say maybe roughly 1 in 100 were raped.
You're living in a good neighborhood then, I guess.
I mean, like most women that are close to me were never were never sexually assaulted in that way.
Mm-hmm.
The worst thing that ever happened to my wife was her butt was pinched when she was in England by Italian.
My goodness, she is a very fortunate woman that's the worst ever happened to her. Because I hear stories all. Maybe it's just I'm that kind of guy that they want to tell their horror stories to. A lot of women have really bad stories, so 20%.
Yeah, I'm sure they do, but
high to me.
There is also that I don't want to be a pig. I don't want to be that.
Well, it's too late now.
But a lot of women do kind of bring it on themselves.
Well, that's true. If you're getting
in certain behaviors,
if you get super drunk, I just said this before. If you get super fucked up, and you're whoring around, and something happens, I mean, I'm not saying that what the guy did was right. But some of that's on you for putting yourself in that situation. That's why I'm not comfortable with women that are drunk or high or any of those, because it just makes me feel like, is she like horny because of this, or is she horny because of me? I can't tell. I'd much rather just wait it out and just be like, okay, do you actually like me, or are you just fucked up?
yeah, I agree. But it also points to parenting. I mean, like I try to teach my daughter to defend herself, to take care of herself, to never be in a vulnerable situation around people she doesn't know or isn't comfortable with.
No.
And even if she's not comfortable with people that she does know or something like that, you're raising, and unfortunately, because as we keep going on in time, we're raising kids who are not going to be able to take care of themselves because of the new culture of shaming, where everybody's completely sensitive and triggered at every little thing, and they do become crazy, they do become paranoid, and it's just going to get worse for these kids as they grow up because they're not going to have any natural barriers.
Well, also I think that kind of creates a weird backlash where you're creating this generation of, we have hypersensitive people, but then we're having hyper insensitive people. People are like, well, fuck that, and they just reject all of that.
Or they'll put their sensitivity at a premium and believe that their feelings matter and no one else's do.
Well, that's a lot of people are like that. Everybody's up their ass.
And that's part of what Clint Eastwood called the pussy generation.
Well, I don't know if I want to. I mean, I respect his body of work and everything, but near the end, I mean, like you saw him at like that Republican convention where he was just sort of talking to a chair, kind of improvised.
There was somebody in the chair, you just couldn't see it.
It was supposed to be Obama. It was.
I think it was an interdimensional being, someone who existed between different.
It was Thanos. He was going to come in.
All right, Thanos. I knew we had to get a Avengers joke in there. Yeah. Okay, so best case scenario in that camp is that you will do something which will embarrass you, the information becomes public, and then the legal eagles went through the fray, and the next thing you know, you're put on trial for crimes against humanity. Do you have 2 minutes? I just want to discuss why I'm bringing this up. I got into a rather heated discussion with friends. Actually, a dear friend of mine. A dear friend of mine who tends to be very, very liberal, but he's also a kind of person who listens to no agenda, so he's aware of the biases that are at work, confirmation bias, the media, how the media distorts facts, how it will tell its own kind of story in order to control. He understands a lot of this. He was a very good friend of mine. He was an actor. I directed him, a very talented performer, entertainer, comedian, and I directed him in a movie. And we've been Facebook friends for roughly 6 years, I want to say. And he crossed the line with me because all I was saying was I did not say that I believe that Bill Cosby was innocent. Like I said, he's as guilty as sin as far as I'm concerned. I think he is guilty. But unfortunately, it's an ugly reality, but we do have to respect our legal process. And our legal process demands physical evidence. And if there's no physical evidence, then you should have mistrial after mistrial. And otherwise, court cases will be depend solely on hearsay, gossip, and this guy raped me. I didn't do it, but we believe this person because I don't know. This is what we're believing right now. I said this will set a dangerous precedent for court cases going into the future. You'll be able to say things happened even if they didn't happen. If you don't have any physical evidence. And the legal system exists on precedent. All you have to do is say, well, in Cosby trial, and they're like, oh, fuck. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess we'll have to let this stand because of what we did with the Cosby trial. So I was just making that comment that this is we have to uphold the law no matter how ugly it might be. The law like free speech. I don't believe in the concept of hate speech. I believe in speech. If you don't like it, it becomes hate speech automatically, and then federal laws come into play and all this stuff. I think crimes are crimes. And you need the physical proof to back it up. That's all I was saying. And I was told that I was an ignorant fucktard, a wannabe lawyer, which is hilarious. And then this person who I'd known for a long time, like since the beginning of the millennium, told me I should be raped. I should be raped, and my cries should go unheard, that no one should believe me. And I was so floored by that, because this is that what we were just talking about, David, the sensitivity of people being transferred into an insensitivity to other people.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're not as sensitive as me, if you don't believe this stuff, you hate women, number one, you're not worth my time, you're a monster, and you should probably be raped or something like that.
Yeah.
So that was, I was absolutely floored by that. I had to unfriend him. I said, you crossed the line. And I'm going to go now, because you're obviously not listening to me. You've made up your mind.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't. What matters is that you believe this woman, even though she has no proof.
Can I offer my theories as to why he said that and why he did it in that way?
Sure, but but before you do, yes. I want to tell you, he's older than us.
Okay.
He's lived, all over the place. And he even had a boathouse. He lived on a boat. He's a very worldly, cultured person, very smart. He does tend to indulge in marijuana a little bit. He's a bit of a pothead, but that's okay. I've always found him funny, stimulating, very smart guy. So bear that in mind.
Okay, so this is my theory. Well, now that you've given me that piece of information, maybe this helps my theory. He sounds like a bit of a pretentious windbag. He sounds like a bit of a leftist sort of elite. And I think that part of his anger is brought upon by Trump. And believe me, I'm pissed off about Trump too. But I try not to let it inform my general, because you start to get pissed and you start to lose your objective thought, and you just get into a rage, and it starts to be more about you and your issues than the actual subject of what you're doing. So you have to be mindful of that. So I think that's right. I think it's part of it's Trump rage. I think part of it is him basically announcing to you and to the world, I'm the most women's rights sensitive man in the world. Now women must love me because of that. Always beware of like the man who's super into women's issues, because he's playing an angle. He's trying to get laid or something. Something's going on. That's my opinion.
Maybe, yeah.
So he's the fucktard. I defend you.
Okay. All right. You get it.
Yeah.
My wife gets it. A couple of people actually got it, but they never threw their lot in and argued either for or against the idea. So some people get it, and other people are just so filled with hate and rage that they can't think straight. They can't think
to quote
logically.
To quote History of the World Part 1, little fag gets it.
The little fag gets it.
Yeah. All right. On that note, great way to end a show. I love ending on a Mel Brooks joke.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
All right. Good night, and watch me, faggots. That's from Blazing Saddle.
Watch me, faggot.
I'm working for Mel Brooks.
Throw out your hands, stick out your tush, hands on your hips, give them a push. You'll be surprised you're doing the French mistake. Voila!
Wrong! Give me the playback and watch me, faggot.
Throw out your hands, stick out your tush, hands on your hips, give them a push. You'll be surprised you're doing the French mistake.